He brought laughter to millions on The Tonight Show. Yet he died away from the limelight. Johnny Carson amassed an enormous fortune and became the unrivaled master of late-night television. However, his tale took a chilling twist. Even as rumors circulate about the man who once controlled television, his opulent estate lies hauntingly deserted. Details regarding his relationships, fortune, and family were revealed after his death, shocking his supporters. The paradox of Johnny Carson was intriguing. Despite his natural charisma and ease in front of millions of viewers, this man was surprisingly reserved and avoided attention when the cameras weren't rolling. As host of The Tonight Show, he became one of America's most famous faces, but he was extremely discreet about his personal life. Those who knew Carson best often said that he was the most private public man who ever lived, a description that aptly summed up the contradictions in his character. Carson shied away from the typical social circles that a celebrity of his caliber would be expected to frequent when he was off camera. Instead of embracing the bustle of social events, he cherished the peace and quiet of his own house. This reticent side was clearly caused by actual social anxiety, rather than just personal taste. Veteran talk show host and Carson colleague, Dick Cavett, once made a sympathetic and understanding observation about this facet of Johnny's character. Cavett has since passed away. After meeting Johnny, Cavett felt bad for him since he was so awkward around other people. "I've never met anybody who had it so bad," she added. "It's astonishing to think that someone who was so naturally charming on television could have such a hard time interacting with regular people." George Axelrod, a screenwriter and playwright who had met Carson privately, put it this way: "Socially, he doesn't exist. The reason is that there are no television cameras in living rooms. In other words, if people had little red lights in the middle of their foreheads, Carson would be the best conversationalist on the planet." This statement emphasizes how Johnny Carson's brilliance and charisma seemed to be overstated in his interactions with the public eye. Without the structured environment and performative aspect of television, his ability to captivate and engage was often lost. Johnny struggled with the intimacy of private conversation, unscripted and without the safety net of an audience. His reticence extended to how he handled questions about his personal life, politics, and social issues. He was notoriously private about anything that went beyond his professional persona. It was almost as if he couldn't exist apart from the presence of an audience, or more specifically, a camera. Unlike many famous people who use interviews as a platform to shape or share their personal stories, Carson hardly ever did that. He usually avoided deep dives into topics like his childhood, politics, or social controversies, opting instead for a guarded, almost comical approach. To avoid answering the personal questions that could invade his privacy, he would hand out pre-written sheets of answers to reporters, which were frequently cryptic, playful, or evasive. For example, there were evasive statements like, "Yes, I did," which could be attached to many questions without providing any information. Or "There isn't a shred of truth to that rumor," which was a general rejection that didn't address anything specific. No. Kumquats was one of his more infamously strange responses. Johnny Carson's personal life was characterized by multiple marriages, each representing a different chapter in his life, with all the intricacies and difficulties that accompany relationships. This wacky expression left reporters confused and irritated, but it clearly conveyed his reluctance to engage seriously on specific subjects. Married a woman named Jody Walcott in North Platte, Nebraska, in October 1949. Their marriage was far from stable or serene. It became volatile over the years, marred by infidelity committed by both partners. Carson's marriages show a side of him that contrasts sharply with his polished comedic persona on The Tonight Show and shed light on the turbulent nature of his private life. They had a rocky marriage due to the stresses of Carson's rising stardom, and the stresses of any marriage, but especially his growing influence in the public eye. After over 10 years of marriage, they divorced in 1963. Carson then remarried the same year to Joanne Copeland, and they were married for almost 10 more years, but they had just as many problems. When they finally divorced in 1972, the settlement was the sum that Copeland received was substantial for its time, nearly $500,000, which, adjusted for inflation, would be close to $3.76 million in 2024. Along with the lump sum, she was also awarded an alimony payment of $100,000 per annum and a fairly nice art collection. highlighting Carson's financial success and affluence by that point. Opulent's life after the divorce was calmer, but no less complicated. She remarried, but that marriage too ended in divorce. She passed away in California in 2015 at the age of 83 years of age. It is worth mentioning that Joanne Copeland did not have any children. In the fall of 1971, while Carson was still going through the painful divorce proceedings with Copeland, he had a chance encounter that would lead to his most famous and financially significant marriage. While dining with friends at the exclusive 21 Club in New York City, he saw Joanna Holland, a former model who had worked for Paris, and waved at Pons as she passed. Carson was captivated by Holland's striking appearance and used Paris as an intermediary to arrange for Holland to take his phone call a few days later. By late October 1971, Joanna Holland had already gone through a divorce and had an 11-year-old son named Tim from a prior marriage. They went out to dinner and a show. For their first date, which was also Carson's 46th birthday. From that point on, Carson allegedly called her every day at 4:30 p.m. in May 1972. When the Tonight Show production moved to Burbank, California, Holland and her son moved in with Carson. He bought a magnificent $500,000 bare mansion, which had been formerly owned by the renowned filmmaker Min Loy, signaled the start of their Hollywood romance. Their relationship progressed swiftly, and at the Tonight Show's 10th anniversary bash at the Beverly Hills Hotel on September 30, 1972, Carson shocked everyone by announcing that he and Holland had secretly been married that very afternoon. This announcement shocked his friends and associates, and it reflected Carson's penchant for privacy and control over the sharing of personal information. Joanna Holland's influence on Carson went beyond their personal relationship. Holland introduced Carson to the pleasures of Western European travel during her time with her ex-husband in the early 1960s, when the couple visited glitzy European destinations like Biarritz, Monte Carlo, and St. Moritz. They also went to the Wimbledon Championships and the Hotel du Cap in Antibes, two luxury spots. Carson supposedly relished these experiences, in part because he was practically unknown there, free from the pressures of fame. However, the marriage was not without its problems. By November 1982, the couple had separated. Reportedly suggested by Holland as a result of Carson's adultery, the couple separated and Carson relocated from their bare home to their Malibu beach house. On March 8, 1983, Holland formally filed for divorce. The divorce proceedings lasted over 2 years, finally ending in a detailed 80-page settlement in August 1985. Holland received a whopping $20 million. Which would be more than $58 million in 2024, consisting of the bare mansion, 3 Manhattan apartments, 1 at the Pier Hotel and others on 5th Avenue and 62nd Street, luxury cars, a Rolls-Royce, in addition to a Mercedes-Benz and an economy car. She also received $35,000 per month for 64 months in alimony payments. This settlement was enormous, reflecting Carson's enormous wealth and the high stakes of their divorce. Carson wasted no opportunity to make fun of their expensive divorce. On The Tonight Show, he often joked about the financial terms, proving that he could turn personal tragedy into comedy. Meanwhile, Tim, the son of Joanna Holland and Carson's former stepson, died in 1994 from a pulmonary embolism. In her own life, Joanna Holland lived until July 2025, when she died at the age of 93. Carson's last marriage was to Alexis Moss, which lasted until his death in 2005 and is generally seen as a more stable period. Carson was known for his wit, even when it came to personal matters. He joked, "My giving advice on marriage is like the captain of the Titanic giving lessons on navigation." Recognizing humorously the many highs and lows he had encountered in his own relationships. As a father, Johnny Carson's role was deeply impacted by joy and tragedy, reflecting the richness of his public and private lives. Carson had 3 sons with his first wife, Jody Walcott, Christopher, who was born in 1950, Kim Arthur Rickey, who was born in 1951, and Barry William Corey, who was born in 1953. All 3 boys were important to Carson's early family life, even though his quickly rising television career kept him away from home routines. Rickey, being the middle child, had a strong affinity for photography and a profound love of nature. He loved to capture the beauty of the natural world, accompanied him on many excursions where he enthusiastically pursued his craft. Unfortunately, in 1991, Ricky was killed in a terrible car accident while photographing nature. The loss rocked the Carson family and Johnny's life and career. The impact of Ricky's death was especially noticeable when Johnny Carson returned to The Tonight Show a few weeks after the accident. In a touching and unusual departure from his usual comedic style, Carson paid a long tribute to his son, Ricky. The moment was honest and genuine, showing a side of Carson that viewers rarely saw: the bereaved father trying to come to terms with his loss on live TV. But the emotional moment was cut short when Carson's longtime producer Fred de Cordova signaled for him to wrap it up because the show was running overtime. This interruption was seen by many as insensitive and caused a lot of trouble among the crew and fans. As a result, de Cordova was reportedly banned from the studio floor for the rest of the show's run, highlighting how important and delicate the moment was for everyone involved. Sons played a significant role in his later life and last broadcasts. In May 1992, while his time on The Tonight Show was winding down, Johnny invited his two sons, Corey and Christopher, onto the stage. This public recognition of his family was a moving gesture, revealing a personal side to Carson that contrasted with his carefully guarded private persona. Their presence in these last moments underscored the importance of family to Carson, even in his professional farewell. Additionally, in the very last episode of The Tonight Show that Carson hosted, the show paid tribute to Ricky's memory in a touching and creative way. In the final credit roll, one of Ricky's nature photographs, a representation of his artistic passion and spirit, was included, creating a subtle tribute that would serve as a lasting memorial, incorporating his son's legacy into the show that had defined so much of Carson's life and career. Johnny Carson, the famed host of The Tonight Show, suffered a severe heart attack at his Malibu, California home on March 19, 1999. He was immediately hospitalized at a nearby Santa Monica Medical Center, where he underwent a major quadruple bypass surgery to restore blood flow to his heart. In his latter years, this event marked a turning point in the health of a man whose smoking had taken a toll on his body for decades. Carson's history with cigarettes was well known, even in his early TV days. In fact, when he was hosting The Tonight Show, he would often light up on camera, sometimes lighting up multiple Pall Mall cigarettes in quick succession. At his worst, Carson was said to have smoked 4 packs a day, an astonishing figure that clearly affected his body. By the mid-1970s, he was often the somber warning, "These things are killing me." This confession reflected a growing awareness of the health risks of smoking that he could no longer ignore. His younger brother, Dick, recalled that during their last conversation, Carson kept repeating the lament, "Those damn cigarettes," underscoring the regret that accompanied his lifelong habit. Despite his declining health, Carson remained fiercely private about his medical conditions. In 2002, he declined to appear at NBC's 75th anniversary celebration, a sign that he was pulling the plug on his habit, away from the spotlight. By the end of that year, he had publicly admitted to having emphysema, a chronic lung condition mostly brought on by smoking. Although he admitted the seriousness of his illness, Carson denied rumors that he was terminally ill, either because he was holding out hope or because he chose to keep details from the media. His condition worsened over the years, and on January 23, 2005, Johnny Carson died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles from respiratory failure caused by emphysema. He was laid to rest at the end of an era in American television, a sad moment for fans and colleagues alike. His wife, Alexis Moss, was given custody of his cremated remains. No public memorial service was planned, in accordance with his family's wishes. To honor the private dignity that Carson had always treasured, he was survived by his wife and younger brother, Dick Carson, who had become famous as an Emmy-winning director of shows like Wheel of Fortune and The M.V. Griffin Show. In the wake of Johnny Carson's death, tributes began pouring in from all corners of the entertainment industry and beyond. Some of the most moving were the following: a statement from then-President George W. Bush, which recognized the deep affection and respect felt for Carson across the country. A moving tribute to Carson on January 31, 2005, on Late Show with David Letterman, in which Letterman invited former Tonight Show executive producer Peter Lassalle and longtime bandleader Doc Sevison to reflect on Carson's impact on late-night television and share their memories. Letterman reflected on how, for 30 years, regardless of the viewer's mood or the state of the world, Johnny Carson's unique ability to bring laughter and comfort was on full display. He also revealed that the monologue he had just delivered was composed entirely of jokes sent to him by Carson in the months leading up to his death. A final creative gift. The segment ended with Doc Severinsen leading a soulful performance of Here's That Rainy Day, one of Carson's favorite songs, with Tommy Iommi and Ed Shaughnessy joining in. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno also paid tribute to Carson, welcoming longtime collaborators and friends, including Ed McMahon, Bob Newhart, Don Rickles, Drew Carey, and K.D. Lang. Their friendship, which lasted 46 years despite the intense pressures of television, continued through shared dinners and drinks off camera. This is a testament to Carson's ability to maintain meaningful relationships despite his demanding career. Carson's legacy continued to reverberate in popular culture long after he passed away. The 2005 film The Aristocrats was dedicated to him and McMahon, as Carson himself had mentioned during his last appearance on The Tonight Show. Comedy Central established a Johnny Carson Award at its inaugural Comedy Awards ceremony, with David Letterman as the first recipient. The following year, Don Rickles received the same award, underscoring Carson's enduring influence on generations of comedians. In 2012, PBS aired a comprehensive 2-hour documentary titled Johnny Carson, King of Late Night, narrated by Kevin Spacey. The documentary featured interviews with family members, as well as tributes from the animated series The Simpsons in the 16th season episode titled Mummy Dearest. As we delve into the incredible estate of Johnny Carson, we find ourselves surrounded by fellow comedians and protégés who paint a vivid picture of Carson's life, career, and legacy. Carson's influence was also recognized on a local level. A park in Burbank, across from the old NBC studios where The Tonight Show was shot for decades, was named after him, guaranteeing that his impact would be felt in the city that played such a pivotal role in his career. This little house has a special place in the story of one of the most beloved TV personalities in American history. It is a physical reminder of Carson's modest upbringing in Norfolk, a city in northeastern Nebraska, where he lived during his formative years. Here he experienced the daily simplicity and close-knit community typical of small-town America in the 1920s and 1930s. Carson would later become known as the king of late-night television, but his roots were firmly planted in this small Midwestern town. The house at 36 13th Street is a modest, traditional home that reflects the style of that time and place. Its simple design prioritizes family, living, and practicality over excess and grandeur. Carson's later exposure to celebrity mansions and extravagant lifestyles stands in stark contrast to this humble home, which symbolizes the grounded upbringing that molded his character. This house was more than just a building. It was the setting where his personality started to take form. The boyhood home is more than just a place of origin. It is a foundation for the man Johnny became. Underneath his polished and quick-witted exterior, he retained a genuine connection to his roots. Johnny lived in a distinguished Manhattan apartment at 1161 York Avenue during the formative years of The Tonight Show. From 1962 to 1972, the Midwestern values of hard work, humility, and community, which would later permeate his on-screen persona, and these early lessons in modesty and authenticity remained evident throughout his career. Even after he achieved immense fame and success, the apartment at 1161 York Avenue, situated in one of the most posh Upper East Side neighborhoods of New York City, was more than just a house. It represented Carson's metamorphosis from a country lad to a sleek urban bachelor who lived it up. In the city that never sleeps, co-worker and fellow TV personality Dick Cavett characterized the property as a bachelor pad with 4 bedrooms and a river view, conjuring up images of a roomy and stylish urban retreat, which sheds light on the size and personality of the inhabitants. The apartment, located on York Avenue in Manhattan's Upper East Side, put Carson within striking distance of major cultural institutions, upscale restaurants, and the bustling entertainment scene. It was a place where he could enjoy privacy and comfort, while still maintaining the freedom and vibrancy befitting a rising television star. Unlike the sprawling estates or palatial homes often associated with Hollywood celebrities, this New York apartment reflected a cosmopolitan sensibility, blending understated elegance with practical sophistication. Living in New York during this decade meant that Carson was in the middle of the television industry's East Coast hub, near NBC's studios in Rockefeller Center, and swept up in the city's intellectual and social energy. Here he flourished as a performer and presenter amid the pulsating pulse of a city known for its rapid pace and diverse cultural life. Cavett pointed out an interesting detail about Carson's apartment: a telescope. This shows a lesser-known side of Carson, his continuing fascination with astronomy. Despite the hectic schedule of hosting a nightly talk show, Carson nevertheless managed to squeeze in his love for the stars. Johnny Carson's home at 535 West Via Lola in Palm Springs, California, represents a significant part of the private life of one of the most famous American television personalities. There, Carson would often gaze up at the stars, satisfying his intellectual curiosity. The telescope stands for a more reflective side of Carson's personality, a place to escape the limelight and contemplate the big picture. Johnny Carson's decision to own a home in this exclusive enclave highlights his desire for privacy and tranquility, which were vital for a man whose career involved nightly public exposure and a relentless work schedule. Nestled in the desert oasis that has long been a favorite retreat for celebrities, artists, and those seeking escape from the intense glare of Hollywood, this mid-century modern home offered Carson a sanctuary where he could relax and recharge, away from the relentless pressures of fame. Palm Springs has a reputation as a glamorous hideaway, a place where stars from the golden age of Hollywood escaped the constant buzz of the studio lot and red carpet events. Carson's choice to own a home in this exclusive enclave demonstrates his desire for privacy and tranquility, qualities that were vital for a man whose career involved nightly public exposure and an intense work schedule. The address 535 West appreciated Palm Springs for its tranquil desert scenery, opulence, and laid-back vibe. The house itself was a masterpiece of mid-century modern architecture, a style that was ideal for Carson's desired lifestyle and the Palm Springs aesthetic. Mid-century modern houses are defined by sleek silhouettes, expansive windows, and an organic integration with nature. The design emphasizes practicality and simplicity without sacrificing style. Carson's home embodied these principles, providing a harmonious blend of modern elegance, comfort, and style, making it the perfect getaway from the hectic city life of television production and Hollywood social life. The home's history is intriguing because it was supposedly bought from Sidney Korshak, an influential attorney who was part of Hollywood's inner circle. Korshak was known to have connections to many people in the entertainment industry, and beyond the fact that the property was transferred to Carson, shows how celebrities, lawyers, and business people were all interdependent on each other. Owning a house that had been owned by Korshak gave it prestige, but more importantly, it became a personal sanctuary for Carson. Palm Springs itself was more than just a pretty sight. Carson, who had a history of emphysema due to smoking, found the desert's dry, warm climate to be particularly conducive to health and relaxation. The area's breathtaking mountain views, clear skies, and peaceful nights offered a welcome respite from the hectic pace of his life in New York and Los Angeles. From his home at 535 West VLA, he could escape the media limelight and the stifling expectations of celebrity culture, where he could enjoy his own private moments of leisure. Johnny Carson's Malibu oceanfront estate, located on approximately 4 acres of prime coastal land and often referred to as 6962 Wildlife Road or other nearby addresses on Wildlife, is one of the most iconic and architecturally significant properties associated with the legendary television host. Whether that meant hosting intimate gatherings of friends or just enjoying solitude, the home's design probably included outdoor spaces typical of Palm Springs architecture, such as patios, pools, and gardens, further enhancing its role as a sanctuary for rest and rejuvenation. Here, Carson could temporarily shed the role of the late-night host and simply be himself. Road embodies the raw beauty of the Malibu coastline and the innovative modernism of the late 20th century. Designed in 1978 by renowned architect Ed Niles, the residence is a modernist masterpiece that suited Carson's refined tastes and desire for privacy in breathtaking surroundings. Carson bought the property in 1984 and lived there for over 20 years. Until his death in 2005, it was more than just a mansion. It was a sanctuary where he could escape the constant pressures of public life and immerse himself in an atmosphere that combined innovation, comfort, and the raw beauty of the Malibu coastline. This magnificent 7,083 square foot home is known for its floor-to-ceiling glass walls that let in an abundance of natural light and provide breathtaking views of the ocean. The walls also serve to bridge the gap between the indoors and outdoors, making it possible for the sounds and sights of the sea to fill the living space. The architecture showcases an elegant use of geometric forms, particularly the triangular motifs that shape the layout of the living areas. The result is a dynamic sense of sightlines and movement all over the place. The home welcomes guests to discover its numerous features. A standout feature is the indoor arboretum, an oasis within the home with a lush plant-filled atrium and a lofty 30-foot ceiling. It brings nature indoors, creating a peaceful atmosphere that contrasts with the expansive ocean views outside. The centerpiece copper and glass fireplace adds warmth and characterizes the interior with its artistic focal point and harmonization with the natural materials and open spaces. Inside, Carson's taste in entertainment and personal comfort were both reflected in the estate's thoughtfully equipped amenities. A climate-controlled wine cellar and a dedicated media room provided him with seclusion for watching films or listening to music. The chef's kitchen, with its expansive work areas and top-of-the-line appliances, could host casual meals as well as extravagant gatherings. The expansive master suite was a haven of luxury, with his and hers bathrooms and private offices for his work and relaxation. From the interior to the exterior, the estate's meticulously landscaped grounds transformed it into a true desert meets ocean paradise. A koi pond and waterfall added serene water features, strengthening the estate's connection to nature and providing calming visual and auditory elements. The saltwater pool, which blended in with the natural surroundings, provided a refreshing escape from the California sun. The property also had a tennis court and a pavilion with guest suites, a gym, sauna, and a bar, ideal for social gatherings or personal training sessions. A separate guest house provided privacy for guests while still being close to the main residence, making it an ideal. The estate was designed to be both luxurious and functional, giving Carson a home that could accommodate his many activities. After Johnny Carson died in 2005, his widow, Alexis Moss, sold it to Sidney Kimmel, a famous philanthropist and businessman. The property has been on the market for a while, with prices reaching as high as $81.5 million, proving that it is one of the most sought-after and architecturally distinguished estates in Malibu. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Johnny Carson. We hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next films. Goodbye.